I find that money and material things don't buy happiness, but money and material things give you personal expression, which can definitely enhance your consciousness.
Hello, it's your boy Carl Harvey. Welcome back to The Big Life. I am genuinely so excited because today you're going to discover how to create big life prosperity. In other words, a boss life filled with abundance, purpose, and more. And you're going to discover how to get a money magnet mindset. You'll learn the exact way to, quote, manifest prosperity from the ethers. You'll see why living your purpose is the fastest way to receive rewards from the universe, and discover the power of your subconscious mind in creating true prosperity in your life, and more, much more, in fact. And it's all thanks to my glorious, handsome special guest today. He's the best-selling author of 14 incredible books that have been translated into 25 languages, including some of my all-time favorite abundance and prosperity books, which we've actually studied in my Abundance Book Club, including 37 Secrets About Prosperity, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, and 101 Keys to Your Prosperity. Now, these are all must-read books, and you get the gist that this man is a prosperity expert. But here's the best bit, or the bit I really like. My guest today was not born into money and success. He's a former high school dropout who rose from being a dishwasher in a pancake house to becoming a multi-millionaire. Boom! For more than 20 years, he's been helping millions of people around the world transform their self-limiting beliefs into personal and business success, and he's rightly known as one of the world's preeminent experts on prosperity. He's called the Millionaire Messiah by his legions of adoring fans all over the world who have used his books, seminars, and coaching to create big lives filled with prosperity, adventure, and abundance. And now it's your turn, baby. I've been trying to interview this man for over a decade. I'm so glad we've finally done the deal. So excited for you. And we're here now. So please give a huge big life welcome to the one and only Randy Gage. Hello, Randy.
I think that's the best the best intro I ever got on a podcast. My mother is going to be so impressed. I mean,
send this right to your mama. She's going to love it. And just tell her, my bad, mama, I could have had this 10 years ago, but I ignored hundreds of Carl Harvey's emails, direct messages, YouTubes, and more. But the lesson here, people, is perseverance. I'm so excited. Let's jump right in. First question I've got for you, mate. In your brilliant book, 37 Secrets About Prosperity, you actually start the book by writing, quote, prosperity is a funny thing. Everyone knows the word, but few people understand what it really means. Go on then. So what does prosperity really mean? What's prosperity all about?
I think for most people where they confuse it is they think it's money. And they think, oh, as long as I keep earning more money or asking for higher fees or getting raises, I'm living a prosperous life. And that's a really shallow, superficial view of prosperity, because true prosperity is very holistic, and health and mental harmony and relationships and those other things play a very big role.
Give me a little sense of that then. So let's say, for argument's sake, your boy's decked out in all this fancy Versace. Woo! Is that not prosperity? What else do I need to create and manifest? And I'm half joking because I've read all your books and studied them. They've helped me so much. But for the people watching, because especially when you're in a scarcity consciousness, I certainly convinced myself that all I need to make is 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year, and then all my problems are solved. And actually, I'm with you. I believe prosperity and abundance, it's far deeper than just the cash money. But how have you manifested prosperity in your life, and what's important to you in terms of living a prosperous life?
Yeah, it'll be different for everyone. And I think if you're really evolving as a human, it'll be different for you as you go through the stages of your life, right?
Okay.
If you interviewed me 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'd probably be wearing a $50,000 diamond bracelet of some kind. What am I wearing today? I'm wearing 3 plastic bracelets that probably, can't remember, they're $10 each or $20 each, but they're made from recycled plastic. There's this place called 4Ocean, a nonprofit, couple of guys started up, and they harvest the plastic from the, that's floating around polluting the oceans, and they turn it into jewelry. And so when you buy a bracelet, you're paying the cost of taking 1 pound of plastic out of the ocean. So, you know what? At this stage of my life, I'm a lot happier wearing that plastic bracelet than I would have been 10 years ago when I needed $50,000 worth of diamonds on my wrist to feel prosperous.
That's really interesting. So you think you needed it because, oh, mate, you've had such a big impact on my life. I'm paraphrasing, but one of the quotes in your books is along the lines of, if you don't pay more for your shoes now than you used to earn in a year, then you're living not like a peasant, but something along that. And it actually hit me, and I was like, wow, what an abundance consciousness in the idea that abundance and money are infinite. So therefore, why not raise our thinking to that level? But have you changed your tune then? No more diamonds?
I don't know that I've changed my tune, but I still feel like you need to be evolving. I think you need to as we take this journey to becoming the highest possible version of ourselves. What I was trying to explain with because I tell the shoe story all the time, right? My dream shoes. I remember meeting a successful guy who I really wanted to be like, and he had these $200 Bally loafers.
Oh, wait.
And if you read the Rob report back in the day, then at this time, they said these were the most comfortable shoes in the world. And they cost $200.
Okay.
Well, at that point in my life, I spent $200 for a car. And I mean, I would have to save up the money until I had 10, $20 bills that I could take to an auction or some, used car lot and buy a beat up, crappy old, like a mail delivery car for $200. So my dream was to get those Bally loafers, which, then I manifested that, right? So my eyes got, the window through which I viewed the world got a little bigger. Then I learned about Prada sneakers, which are like $500. I mean, oh my God, this was obscene. The idea that you could spend $500 for a sneaker, which of course for people listening now, who are buying Yeezys and, Jordan Air Jordans or whatever. They're
like, baby, all the customer
service. Are you kidding me? There you go. Right. Well, but remember, this is back in the day. $500 was a huge amount of money. And then I discovered Testoni shoes, which are like $1,000 a pair. Oh, and then somebody told me about Lobs of London, which had made this handcrafted shoes for King George and Frank Sinatra and, whoever. And I said, wow, I'm going to do a prosperity weekend. I'm going to fly the Concorde to London, and I'm going to get some shoes made at Lobs of London. And they measure they make a cast of your foot. They build a wood model and they handcraft these shoes. They're like $10,000 a pair. And so every time I raised my shoe game, what I was really doing, what I think it's a metaphor for, is that I was viewing the world through a bigger window. And Hallelujah. So now, I'm much more likely to be wearing a $300 pair of sneakers than I would be wearing a $10,000 Lobs of London, just because the way I'm at my life right now, I'm more about being comfortable. It's easier. It's, my back. My back is less problem when I wear sneakers than when I wear heeled shoes, because
I'm going to send you some saucy Yeezys or Jordans after this, by the way. I'm going to get you some saucy ones. Yeah.
So, because what I don't want it to come across is that I think everyone in the world should pay $10,000 for shoes, or $5,000 or $2,000. It's what adds prosperity to your life. What do you enjoy, right? So for me, I'm kind of a fashion whore. So I love having a nice outfit and everything goes together. And I like to express my individuality through colors or uniqueness or whatever. So for other people, that means nothing. And their whole thing would be to have a ski lodge. I have a friend in Michigan. He has a summer house with no running water and no electricity. That's his, his dream is he goes for every summer and he spends a month in this cabin, him and his wife with no water and no electricity, and they love it. So it's about, and that's very prosperity.
Oh,
Me,
yeah.
I want to be at the Ritz Carlton with 24-hour room service and,
Yeah, babe.
whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
most certainly.
Yeah. So we have to each find what are the things that, enhance our life. And then do we think we're worthy enough and deserving enough that we allow ourselves to have those things?
Hallelujah. Even years ago when I was reading your books and you were talking about the fancy shoes and all the cars and the, flying on the Concorde, you tell many stories about, I didn't take it as the lesson is you got to get yourself fancy stuff. It was more aligned with what Deepak Chopra says in, I believe it's Seven Spiritual Laws. No, it's actually Creating Affluence. He says, better and best. People with wealth consciousness settle only for the best. Go first class all the way, and the universe responds by bringing you more of the best. And that really hit me as well, alongside your trainings and books, in the idea that I'm limiting myself. It's not about having a £5 pair of shoes or the Bentley or whatever it may be. It's why am I stopping myself from having it if I want it? Like, if I'm drawn to it, why do I have to pretend that that's big or out of my reach? One of the things I found, because I mentioned the Bentley, I actually just got the Bentley convertible. It's my dream car for years. Bob Proctor helped me manifest it and many more. And it's great. I mean, it's a toy, but I was driving it today and you flashed in my head. I'm like, the joy and the vibration this car gives me. Now, I know it's not actually the car, but it's like a portal where I get in the car and immediately I feel like a zillion bucks and I'm inspired for the day. And I found that material things can be a tool to help you get in that prosperity consciousness. I don't mean spend all your money on a bloody Bentley and be broke and drive it, because the gas alone, sensational nowadays. You got to be bowling
Right.
just to fill it up, and it takes hours. But how far out the other side do you come? So you mentioned the diamond bracelets and whatnot. Do you still believe that certain material items can help people to get more of a prosperity consciousness? Or should we swerve that and focus on something different?
Well, I do believe there's not many, but there are some people who, for them, prosperity would be renouncing all material things and working in an ashram or a Shaolin temple or something, right? And I'm totally fine with that. For me, I almost did that. There was a point in my life where I almost went to a Shaolin temple, right? But I just felt like, no, that wasn't really the right path for me. I feel like the path I'm on now is the one I was meant to be on. I think I don't know that I discovered my assignment, or maybe my assignment discovered me, but I feel like I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on. And I love being on this path. So I find that money and material things don't buy happiness, but money and material things give you personal expression, which can definitely enhance your consciousness. So if, I had a Bentley Continental GT. You mentioned
That's what
Bentleys.
I got, the convertible one.
Yeah. So when I had the GT, they literally raised their own head of cattle in Scandinavia to get the leather for Bentleys. They have a sound system. I put Ramon Vargas, L'Amour, L'Amour, the live recording from the opera at the Met, in that car.
Fancy.
And you think you're in the Met. The acoustics of that car, it's going to be different for you because you have a convertible. But if you have the hardtop, the acoustics in there.
Occasionally it rains and I'll have the roof up, occasionally, if I'm absolutely forced.
It's just, the acoustics are finer than any concert hall in the world, right? So, and as a music lover, that adds value to it. So I enjoyed that, right? I enjoyed being in Viper. I've had, 9 or 10 different Vipers. I like cars that go fast. I like to, I was a racer for a while. So when I had a car doing 735 miles, at the measuring the horsepower at the dyno, at the axle, 735 or 725 horsepower. That's a tremendous high when you're driving a car like that. You're accelerating from second to third and third to fourth, right? Brings me joy. There's other people wouldn't do a thing for them.
Couldn't
They
care less.
want they
Sure.
want
Yeah.
a Volvo because they got kids and they want a safe car. But what I'm always cautioning people about is just don't buy into the bullshit side that says, oh, a car just takes you from point A to point B. That's when you've gone too far the other direction, right? Because, when I used to buy those cars for $200, one of them I bought was a car that literally was they used for the postal service to deliver mail. So there was no passenger seat because they had ordered a fleet of them with no seat there because that's where they kept the trays of mail that the carrier was delivering from. Right. So I had a car with no passenger seat and the floor rusting out. It was like Fred Flintstone. I could put my feet through the floor of the car. Okay. And to say that car is the same as my Bentley or my Vet or my Vipers or my Aston Martin or my Challenger or my Range Rover or whatever.
Oh, you got range as well. Very English. The Bentley as well. An aristocrat.
Those are the only, I'm a Detroit muscle kind of guy. Those are the only real British cars, because there's certain cars you have to own them at least once, right?
Gotcha.
Like this Range Rover I have is a special edition that they asked Victoria Beckham to design.
I know that one. Yeah.
So they only make 100 in the world. Only 3 of them came to the United States. I've got one of the 3. It's an amazing car. Mohair carpet like the Rolls Royce. It's got this special matte paint job. I have to literally buy detergent from the UK and have it shipped here, or they void my warranty if I would use regular soap.
Well, I'll do you a good deal on that, mate. I'll get you some. I'll sneak it over for you. I'm sure there's a deal to be done.
It's a beautiful piece of work, a piece of art, right? So it brings joy to me. So, and I get there's people, they're not really car people. So great. They don't need a $200,000 car.
No, well, let's actually go deeper into this, if we may, because it could also be people who are struggling with scarcity, or they're not reaching their goals and intentions, and they'll justify it by saying, "Oh, I don't really need a house like that." They see a mansion or whatever and go, "Oh, that's too big for me. That's too much." Who am I to dream that big? So whether it's a car or a house or flying at the front of the plane, which I'm going to ask you about in a bit, or staying in beautiful hotels, etc. I think it's fair to say that if you could go to Bali as a backpacker, and you could probably get a flight for $100 and stay for $20 a night in a hostel, but for $1,000 a night you can live like a king or a Dubai prince, and it is a different vibration. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but what I like to encourage people to do is to live not by their limitations, by their desires and what they really want to create. So for the people here, it might not be cars, but they might be holding themselves back from a bigger experience of life. How do you get that sort of prosperity consciousness where you're able to ask for it, you're able to believe that you can have it and that you deserve it, and then to actually take the steps to create and manifest it?
Well, that's really my life work. That's why I say I believe I've found my assignment. My latest book, which you can actually see behind me on the wall if you're watching the YouTube version of this, is called Radical Rebirth. And it's how to kill off the old you and move into the highest possible version of yourself. And I think that's the mission we all need to be on. And because then the thing that I do in that book that just people's heads explode when they read it is I take the 6 major areas in our life that we create foundational beliefs. Money and success is one of them. Marriage and relationships is one. Health and wellness is one. And then I show you all the limiting beliefs that are out there for those. So money is bad. Rich people are evil. It's spiritual to be poor. You got to be a lousy parent to be wealthy. You have to exploit people to have a successful business. These are all money viruses that are circulating the world all the time. And they're there in sexuality, they're there in health, they're there in work, and all these things. And so, and that's why I say when somebody says, "Oh, come on, a car just takes you from point A to point B." No, you've been brainwashed into lack consciousness. Because if you ever really fired up a Bentley and drove that down the freeway, you would never say that's the same as a Geo Metro. You just wouldn't ever say such a foolish thing. If one of my favorite hotels in Kuala Lumpur is the Hilton.
Yeah, the penthouse there
yeah.
is outrageous. I lived in Kuala Lumpur for 2 years. Saucy.
Well, every time I go back to, they're like, "Mr. Gage, welcome home." There's 3 guys in front of the elevator lobby with white gloves calling the car, so it's there when you come. They put me in a suite. I had 3 balconies in my suite. I had 2 hot tubs in my suite. I'm like, so when somebody tells me, "Oh, come on, you can stay at the Holiday Inn for $80, once you turn off the light, the room is the same."
No!
You
Put that UV light
obviously-
on the bed. It ain't a bloody same, mate. Trust. You put that UV light on that Holiday Inn. No offense, Holiday Inn, but
And just the quality of the mattress, the quality of the air conditioning system, the towels, the tissues, the shampoo, the everything, right? It's such a different experience. So if you buy into those core foundational mind viruses that are so negative, that's where that comes from. So that last book of mine, I feel like that's really the culmination of all my work up to this point, to how you break out of, and then why I say people's heads explode when they read that book is because then I say, okay, here's the limiting beliefs in those areas, right? So let me tell you how you got them. Let me talk about the mind viruses in books, TV shows, movies, blogs, social media, right? And I just give chapter and verse.
I remember you talked about Titanic. Oh, sorry to interject. You talked about the Titanic in one of your books and saying that, it's one of the most loved popular films ever, but it's like a recipe in scarcity consciousness, like celebrating all the poverty, peasant, poor people at the bottom of the ship and stigmatizes all the wealthy people and characterizes them as monsters and heartless. And I mean, it really is. And I watched it back after reading your book and I was like, holy shit, Randy Gage. Yeah, this is, if you're not careful, because the subconscious is so metaphorical in response to stories as well. If you take this story in at face value, there's a good chance you'll end up thinking, oh, well, rich people are bad. It's more noble to be poor and broke. And that really is not the case. Like, the people making that film are not broke. The people promoting it are not broke. Like, there's the powers that be are quite happy having billions of dollars, but selling us a story that poverty is in some way noble, I don't believe in that at all.
Right. So that's James Cameron made that movie, right? I don't think little Jimmy is worried about how much lunch is going to cost today, right? So when that movie came out, I said this is probably the most evil movie that's ever been created. Wow. Because it's just level upon level upon level upon level of money is bad. There's the whole scene in the dining car and she, in the dining room, and she's with all those boring, stuffy, rich people, and they're sifting brandy and smoking cigars. And then Leonardo's like, "Hey, come on down to third class.
Yeah, look how handsome we are down here. We're all like
and
this."
They go down there, and everybody's so happy, go lucky, and then when the ship hits the iceberg, we have the rich people stealing babies, trying to get on, doing every machination possible. We have the poor people, the mother with the 2 kids who's like, "We're just gonna sit here and sing church hymns until we drown." I mean, level after level. So that became the single most successful movie since the Earth's crust cooled.
Wow.
Now, who broke the record? Same director, James Cameron, Avatar.
Interesting.
Okay, what is the premise of Avatar? Evil, mean, greedy corporations.
Yeah.
They're sending an expedition to this planet where they're going to exploit and basically exterminate the indigenous people to get the natural resources from the planet. And that, again, so what's the programming there? We even have the hero of the movie, the protagonist, is a guy in a wheelchair. And we find out that he could walk if he had more money, because one of his sergeants said something like, and you do this mission, we're going to give you enough money you could fix your legs. So now we've got these rich people manipulating these poor people, this guy in a wheelchair, that he needs to go and help exterminate these people so the rich corporation can get richer. Yeah. And of course, happily in the movie, he becomes a renegade and he reckoned it, right? But what is the theme of the movie? The theme of the movie is rich people are evil. So that has displaced Titanic. And you understand, that's this, if you take Alien, which was the first big hit from Cameron, right?
That was Ridley Scott, wasn't it, Alien?
I think. Sigourney Weaver and the spaceship and the alien came, and what was the theme of that movie? This evil, greedy corporation which wanted to keep this creature and take it back to Earth to make money from the research, and meanwhile it kills the whole crew, basically. Because
so what do you think is going on there? Because the so-called elite will tell us that you savages, you got to watch your carbon footprint, and you need to recycle your bottles, and you shouldn't travel as much, and you should be eating those insects. But these savages are on the private jets, and I like Jim Cameron's films, but the idea that he hasn't made billions and billions of dollars promulgating these stories is nonsense. It's not as if he's gone, give away all this money because I don't want or need that. So how do you deal with the fact that in the media, there's a lot of famous faces telling us you savages shouldn't live like this, yet they're the ones getting on the jets preaching to us? What do you think's actually going on there without going too down the rabbit hole? And why do they do that? Why not Leonardo DiCaprio, Jim Cameron and others go, look what I've been able to do in my life. Follow your passion. Once you got your mission, if you work hard and you keep moving and you got good energy, you could create whatever you like. Why is the message the exact opposite of that almost?
Because of mind viruses. Ooh. Mimetics, the science of mimetics. Mind viruses, which parasitize the host and cause you to replicate the virus. That's why I say, that's what that book, Radical Rebirth, is about. Why it explodes people's head is they realize, oh my God, I've been infected with those mind viruses. James Cameron doesn't set out to say, I want to create an evil movie. Yeah. He's a brilliant, genius artist, right? Who makes amazing. I love the movie Alien. I love the Terminator stuff, the sci-fi stuff. He's a brilliant filmmaker. But what he doesn't know, what nobody knows is, wow. So if you want to be an author, when you grow up, you want to write a book like the books you loved as a child. If you're a filmmaker like Cameron, you want to make a film that like you loved as a child. If you're a TV actor or actress, you want to be in a TV show like the ones you liked as a child. So in the book, I take people through, okay, it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So I'm going to go back to your formative years, and we're going to look at what were the TV shows, what were the movies, what were the books that were forming mass pop culture during your formative years. And I start with the Beverly Hillbillies and Dallas and Dynasty, and I take it all the way up to Game of Thrones and the newest movies, the newest shows, and you can realize, wow. So a guy like Jim Cameron, he's not trying to make an evil movie. He's trying to make an epic story of, the little guy fighting the forces of evil, the hero's journey kind of theme, right? But he doesn't realize he has the same mind viruses. So even when you become wealthy, you can still have that subliminal programming that money is bad or rich people are evil. And it's your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are in conflict.
Wow. Boss, I'm going to put a link below this or in the description, wherever you're watching or listening to this, for Radical Rebirth, Randy's new book. I'm going to jump into that immediately afterwards. I haven't seen that one. I'm shocked and offended because I've read each and every other one of your books, many, many times, but I'm going to get stuck into that.
This really pulls all those other ones together, and you'll see how because I've just been like, take the first superhero movie that really made the genre was the first Spider-Man film,
Okay.
right? The original one. That was the first one that, because people are like, come on, are we going to take a comic book and turn it into a movie? I don't know about that. And it became a global phenomenon, and that's what spawned all these Marvel and DC reboots that you see today. So there's a scene in the movie where Peter Parker, who's of course this Spider-Man, is talking to his uncle. And his uncle says to him, we may not be rich, but at least we're honest.
Yeah, you talked about that in one of your books, I remember. And I hadn't noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that translate to? What that really says is, hey, rich people are evil people. You should be glad you're poor because that means you're not evil. We shouldn't do this on live TV, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've just got a fun chapter because the thing with this is now, why is Peter talking to his uncle? Well, because his uncle and his aunt raised him. Now, why did they raise him? Because he's an orphan, right? Uh-huh. Well, if we look at memes, which is, you know, when I say meme, people think, oh, that's like a slide on Instagram.
No, the original meme.
Means mind virus. So this mind virus, just as your computer can get infected with the virus on the hard drive, your subconscious mind. So you find the memes that are the most viral, you often involve children. Why? Because we're all emotional about children. You were wounded as a child. You were not getting your needs met as a child, or you have young children. And of course, if you have children, you would do anything in the world to protect it. So when you watch like my friend Eric just had a young daughter. And so, you know, I forget what movie he was watching. He was like, Reed, I couldn't even watch it anymore. When that evil guy was running after that little girl, I was thinking of my daughter, and I can't even watch it anymore, right? So this idea of an orphan being the protagonist of a series like that,
Harry Potter,
is a mind virus.
Yeah, it's a common theme, isn't it?
In a New York Minute, let's see how many people from pop culture literature are orphans. So this is from the book, right?
Lovely. Link below, people.
Here we go. Tarzan, Snow White, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, James Bond, Captain America, Heidi, the Boxcar Children, Mowgli from the Jungle Book, Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz, the Pied Piper, Little Orphan Annie, Hawkeye, David Copperfield, Poe the Kung Fu Panda, Poison Ivy, Batman, Robin, Laura Croft, Finn from Star Wars, Han Solo, Anakin Skywalker, Luke and Leia Skywalker, Rey Skywalker, The Mandalorian, Worf, Michael Burnham from Star Trek Discovery, Cinderella, The Fly, Frodo Baggins, Superman, Supergirl, Firefly, Harry Potter, Black Manta, Daredevil, Green Hornet, Oliver Twist, Professor X, Wolverine, Magneto, Cyclops, John Wick, Jon Snow,
John Wick as well,
Daenerys Targaryen, and pretty much anyone with the surname of Stark. Do you think all of those authors, TV show, movie people said, I need to create a meme here with an orphan? No, they thought of whatever book or TV or story that they were fascinated with as a child, and they replicated the mind virus. So they just unknowingly. So if you take something like this meme of the hero's journey, this has been around for thousands of years.
So how do we change it? I mean, presumably you talk about this in the book, but if we've got these mind viruses and we are seeing the world through a scarcity lens where rich people bad, poverty suffering is good, and so on and so forth, how do we shift that to a more prosperous, abundant, and self-affirming view of the universe so that we can create what I call a big life, which, living your purpose and your mission, having freedom to do what you want to do, creative self-expression, and more. How do we get rid of that old programming?
Yeah, I believe the process is first you've got to do the critical thinking and say, that's why I broke it down into 6 categories in that book. You go to each one of those categories and say, what are my core foundational beliefs about this? So take marriage and relationships. Okay. If your father was abusive to your mother, if your mother was abusive to your father, if they fought all the time, if one cheated on the other, you had a core foundational belief about marriage and relationships before you were 8 years old. And then you say, are you suggesting I blew up my marriage when I was in my 30s because of some programming I got when I was 8? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So the process that, to answer your question, the process involves doing the critical thinking in each of those areas, recognizing what are your core foundational beliefs in that area, then saying, do they serve me? When did I get that belief? Is that belief really true, or is that actually dangerous for my health and wellness and prosperity? And then if so, you've got to blow up that belief and you've got to replace it with an empowering belief. So you might say, you know what? The belief that rich people are evil is not serving me.
Nope.
And I recognize if I become wealthy, here is the good that I could do in the world. And so now you've taken this negative, dysfunctional, limiting belief and you've replaced it with an empowering belief.
False. Love it. Once more, beautiful people, I'm going to post the link below. Get yourself a copy of Radical Rebirth. And actually, you should get all of Randy's books because they're sensational. Short, simple, to the point, glorious. Let's move on. You mentioned mission a couple of times, which is saying that I've been fascinated with for the last decade or just under, and it's had a huge impact on my life. You say that, quote, once you begin doing the work you are truly meant to do, the universe will reward you with good. This is the way universal law works, no exception. So, Mr. Gage, how do we discover the work we're truly meant to be doing? And how do we know when we're on track? Like, what sort of signs do we get when we're living our mission or our purpose? And how do we know?
I wish I knew. That's why I say I don't know whether I discovered my assignment or my assignment discovered me.
Yeah, I feel that.
But that's why I think it's really so. Like when I first got money, right? I went out and I spent money like a drunken sailor, right? So I went out and my dream was to get a Viper, right? So I got my first Viper. Then that was black. Then I saw a yellow one, so I bought a yellow. Then I wanted a red one. And people say, why would you have 3 colors of the same car? Like, so when I go to dinner, I can make sure that my car matches my shoes, right?
This is a 50 Cent line, choosing which whip to drive by what match my clothes. Yeah, hallelujah. Certainly.
Right. And, I spend millions of dollars on sports cars, right? Because I love sports cars and because I never could have them as a kid.
Yeah.
Remember, I didn't have a car as a teen. I wasn't one of those kids that they turned 16 and daddy bought them a new car and paid the insurance. No, I had to borrow money, and used cars and, blah, blah, blah. So when I became wealthy, I'm like, I'm going to give myself those things I couldn't do when I was younger. And that's a phase that I needed to go through. And then I realized, okay, I've scratched that itch. Now I can learn how to be fiscally responsible and how to live a prosperous life. And I don't have to spend money like a drunken sailor to do it. I can learn the next level of consciousness, which is how to grow your wealth, right? Because for years I used to say, I could lose, if I lost everything, I could build it all back up within 2 years, I'd be a millionaire again. And I proved it, right? And then I realized, well, that's kind of dumb. Why do I have to prove that I could lose everything and become a millionaire?
Yeah, careful what you wish for. Well, you focus on expands, isn't it? That's in your books, bro.
Why don't I just not lose everything
Yeah.
and that would be a lot easier. So I learned how to create and grow wealth, right? And along the way, I discovered this assignment of teaching these timeless principles of prosperity. And I do think, and they come because I challenge myself, right? When is this? When are you going to release this episode? Do you know yet?
Maybe next week, next Wednesday.
Okay. So next week, within a few days after you're listening to this episode, people, podcast peeps, I will have a podcast out of my own I have a podcast called the Power Prosperity Podcast. And I just recorded an episode called Visionaries versus Daydreamers.
Oh, like it.
So I'm going to assign you guys listening right now. That'll be your homework. After you watch this episode or listen to this one, go to my podcast and listen to that one. Because I think what happens is, the daydreamers are the people that they just feel like they're victims of circumstance. I wasn't born in the right house. My family didn't have money. My parents were abusive. I was born in the wrong country. Whereas visionaries realize, no, I have a very active ability to influence my life, my destiny, my prosperity. And once you make that mind shift, I think that's where the breakthroughs happen. So for me, and that's the real theme of that Radical Rebirth book is how do you become the highest possible version of yourself? And if you will get onto like daily self-development, reading books, listening to podcasts, reading blogs that are about personal growth, self-development, I think you will discover your mission. It will discover you, because when you get on that, where you stop saying, okay, I'm just a victim. I was born in a bad neighborhood on the wrong side of the railroad
You don't know my
track.
struggles. You don't know my story, boy. It's tough to be
And
me.
I'm like, seriously, you want to tell me that shit? I was in jail for armed robbery at 15 years old. I was a teenage alcoholic, a teenage drug addict. I've been shot and left for dead.
Oh, I
I've done
forgot that. Yeah,
deals in
wow.
every crack house in Liberty City, Overtown, National City.
This is
And,
gangster. Go on. Former
and you
gangster.
want to tell me you don't know my
You
story?
don't know my pain.
You bring me your tragedy and I'll up you another tragedy, right?
Well, a lot of people actually do that, jokes aside,
Oh,
is that they
no,
go, well,
no,
I hear
no.
you, but I'll raise you this. My one's worse.
Absolutely.
And they tell everyone.
I know.
Yeah.
I know because I did it for 30 years. Okay.
Wow.
So that's why I say the difference is at some point you just say, I'm tired of hanging on to this victimhood story. It's not serving me. It's holding me back. Yeah, I have
Not
a dear
making me
friend.
happy. Yep.
I have a dear friend. He's got $100,000 of student loan debt, and he's had $100,000 worth of student loan debt for 20 years. I've known him, and he brings it up and I'm like, at some point you're just gonna have to let that go.
Yeah. And
go
all the
out there,
times you talked about it, if you were out trying to create value or a service or an offer or to help someone, you could have paid off that loan. Like, no
Exactly.
judgment. I'm being a little bit over the top here, but I really believe that, and I tell people this, that if you come up to me and tell me all the worst things that ever happened to you, and I'm a lovely, compassionate man, but it don't inspire me to want to help you or look after you or do this, like, why not show your best self, focus on the best bits of your life? If you meet someone, you're going to get married and you've got some old traumas or whatever, you're going to have a conversation with them. But I'm talking to people who wear their victim story like a badge of honor and keep sharing it again and again. And you become what you think about most of the time. Like, it was in The Strangest Secret. Elle Nightingale said this shit 50 years ago. I've listened to that thousands of times. Man becomes what he thinks about most of the time. And ladies, of course. There's one more thing I want to ask you about, because I know timing wise, so let me get to it. In Think and Grow Rich, the glorious Napoleon Hill said that ideas that flash into our minds should be acted on fast, immediately, and they should be seen as, quote, direct communication with infinite intelligence. When I first read that, it hit me, and ever since then I've been seeing ideas. If I get an idea, I see that as a gift from the gods, the universe. You say something very similar in one of your books. You say, quote, the medium, man or woman, uses to manifest prosperity from the ethers onto the physical plane are ideas. So what do you mean by this? And how can we and how have you used ideas to create prosperity?
Yeah. So I wrote a book that called Mad Genius,
Yes.
which is it's a manifesto for entrepreneurs, is what
Yes,
it really
boss.
is. And probably that quote is from that book. I don't know. But I believe that's by the way, I was influenced by Earl Nightingale, The Greatest Secret. Of course, I read, and he was influenced by As Man Thinketh, by James
Allen,
Allen.
of course.
And some of these things are timeless. And so another one that I was influenced with is a book called Prosperity by Reverend Charles Fillmore, who was the co-founder of the Unity Church. So, and he is the guy who uses that word substance, that there's no place on earth that prosperity is not, even in the worst sub-Sahara famine in Africa, the most abject poverty at a barrio in El Salvador. We're surrounded by this spiritual substance. And he would equate that ideas are the way we unlock them. And I take that in a very practical sense that, every challenge has a corresponding opportunity, right? COVID-19, that screwed up a lot of people. But if you're a vaccine manufacturer, you just had your best
You've done
year.
all right. Roll up, roll up. Get your boosters.
If you're Zoom or GoToMeeting or what, you just had your best year ever. Every challenge, no matter how horrific it may be, there is seeds of a greater opportunity in there. And so if you come to me and say, you know what my problem is? I have a money shortage. My answer to you is, no, you don't have a money shortage. You have an idea shortage. Because with your idea, you can get all of the money you would care or need.
So how'd you get more ideas?
For me, I literally schedule thinking time
Boss.
every week.
Yes.
About 45 minutes. I get a cup of green tea, no phones, no laptops. I take a journal and a pen, sit down 45 minutes and just think and look for ideas to come in my mind. And also by doing the daily self-development every morning on the treadmill or the elliptical or whatever, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm reading books in the morning. Those are idea generators.
Yeah, fuck yeah. 100%. And from when you get an idea, because I've asked this a million times, my audience, almost everyone can relate to being in the shower or you're out on a walk or you're in the bath or you're getting a massage and all of a sudden an idea flashes in your mind out of nowhere. And it's like, I could call this person. I could set up this business. I could reprice the offer at this or whatever it might be. The idea comes, but I find the vast majority of people then spend the next God knows how long looking for every possible thing that could go wrong with it, talking themselves out of it. Yes, but what if this goes wrong or this? One of the things I've learned to do is as soon as that idea hits, my job is to put it into action as quickly as I can to the best of my ability without attachment to the outcome. But if I get an idea to email you to invite you on the show, that is the first thing I'm doing. I'm not going to let myself talk myself out of it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to do my best. That has worked tremendously well for me. For the people that have ideas and then overanalyze them or think of all the things that could go wrong, what role does speed and movement play in implementing our ideas? And for the people that are doing that, what could go wrong? What advice would you give to them in terms of taking action on the idea instead?
Watch out for the danger of absolutes, which is to say, hey, every time you get an idea, you need to jump on it, Mach 2 with your hair on fire.
Fair enough.
Not every idea is that way. There are some ideas that you need to let them percolate for 2 years or 10 years, because it really is that big of an idea that would impact your life and the world in such a way that it might be. That's probably less than 1% of the time. 99% of the time, the best course of action is going to be just what you described. Hey, how can I get started implementing this idea today?
I dare say, not to put words in your mouth, Mr. Gage, but I dare say a great way to take inspired action would be to click that big link below and help yourself to Radical Rebirth, that new bestseller from Randy Gage. It sounds saucy. I can't wait to read it. Randy, it's been an absolute honour. Truly, over a decade, I've been waiting for this. I hope you've had a good time. Do you have any final thoughts, insight, aha, or anything you'd like to share with a beautiful big life audience who are wanting to create bigger and more prosperous lives?
Yeah, do that critical thinking that we talked about a little earlier and look at yourself. What are the core foundational beliefs in your life? And when's the last time you really questioned whether or not they're serving you? Because for most of us, those beliefs are sabotaging us. They're not serving us.
Boss! Randy Gage, everyone. What a big boss he is, even though the diamond bracelets are gone. I'm hoping you've got one there you can send me. If you don't need them no more, send them over here. I'll give them a good use. It's been an absolute honor. I'd love to have you back on the show in the future. Once more, beautiful people, go get Radical Rebirth by Randy Gage below. Absolute sauce. And until the next time, think big, live big, and take some of what Randy's taught you today and go create some more beautiful prosperity. Thanks once more, Randy Gage. What a boss. Thanks, mate.
Peace.